We begin with the major update on the 2006 Mumbai train blast proceedings. The Bombay High Court has acquitted all 12 accused in the case and overturning the trial court's verdict nearly 2 decades after the tragedy. The judgment comes 19 years after the terror attack. A special bench comprising of Justice Anil Kilor and Justice Shyam Chandak ruled today that the prosecution had utterly failed to prove the case. The High Court cited the lack of credible evidence, stating, and I quote, "It's hard to believe that the accused committed the crime." On the 11th of July 2006, a series of coordinated bomb blasts tore through 7 suburban train coaches in Mumbai's Western Line during peak hours, killing 189 people and injuring over 800 others. In 2015, a special trial court had convicted all 12 accused, with 5 sentenced to death and 7 to life imprisonment. However, the High Court has now quashed those convictions, refusing to confirm the death sentences and the life terms as well. The bench also concluded that the case presented by the prosecution lacked substance, ultimately leading to the acquittal of all 12 men.
बहुत बड़ा फैसला है। हम लोग इस दिन का 19 साल से इंतज़ार कर रहे थे और ये समझिए कि एक एटीएस के मुंह पे तमाचा है, जिन्होंने बेगुनाहों को पकड़ के 19 साल उनकी ज़िंदगी बर्बाद की। आज हम लोग बहुत खुश हैं। मेरे भाई के वो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स इंजीनियर थे, उसके ऊपर बॉम्ब मेकिंग का आरोप था।
मैं बहुत ही दुख, वेदना व्यक्त करना चाहता हूँ कि बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट का जो वर्डिक्ट है, मैं उस वर्डिक्ट को एक मुंबईकर होने के नाते मैं एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर सकता। 2006 में मैं स्वयं मुंबई का एक सांसद था और मैंने स्वयं जाके देखा कि उस टेररिस्ट अटैक में क्या क्या हुआ, कितने परिवारों को उस टेररिस्ट अटैक ने पूरी तरह से शैटर किया। मैं महाराष्ट्र सरकार से अपील करता हूं कि उन्हें जल्द से जल्द देश के सबसे अच्छे वकीलों को इस मैटर में शामिल करना चाहिए और जल्द से जल्द इस बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट का जो वर्डिक्ट है, उस वर्डिक्ट का उन्हें अपील करना चाहिए।
Now we have Aniket Nikam, advocate at the Bombay High Court, and Rennie Abraham, senior journalist, joining us on the broadcast for that big story that we're tracking. Aniket Nikam, let me begin by asking you a very simple, straightforward question. What went wrong over here from the prosecution side? What exactly went wrong? The judges have come down heavily on the case that have been presented. 189 lives were lost, and right now, nobody is at fault.
Well, let me tell you, it's indeed a shocking verdict, in the sense that when trial court had convicted these accused persons to death sentence and life sentence, the Honorable High Court has overturned that verdict. I have not had an occasion to read the order, but it seems whatever I could gather from the media and press reports is that Honorable High Court has said that the procedure that is mandated in law while investigating offences like this, while recording confessions, have not been properly followed. Other than that, the Honorable High Court has also observed that the testimony of eyewitnesses do not inspire confidence for several reasons that have been mentioned in the order. So I would be in a better position to comment upon it only once the entire verdict is out and when we can read it. But indeed, it is a great shock to city of Mumbai for the reason that this train blast had consumed several innocent lives in 2006. And these accused who were tried and convicted by the trial court have now been acquitted. However, I would go a step further and say that this does not stop here. There is also a possibility that the appeal could be made to the Honorable Supreme Court. And I believe that the procedure that is contemplated in law will certainly be followed.
We also have Rennie Abraham with us on the show. Rennie, talk to us. I was there in Mumbai at that time. I used to live on the Western Line. I used to take those trains. I remember that evening so very clearly, the shock that hit us, working in a news channel, one flash of one blast in one coach and then one after the other. That night comes, rushing back to my memory. I mean, for the people of Mumbai, this is a travesty.
Well, Krishna Kumar, I would like to disagree with my co-panelist, Mr. Nikam. as in who's expressed shock. I am hardly shocked. The fact of the matter is that following this serial train blasts that targeted the first class compartments of several local trains in Mumbai on the Western Line was actually witness to the fact that the ATS under Mr. KP Raghuvanshi had arrested one set of accused for the said terrorist bombing, and after which the crime branch of Mumbai had another set of accused that were arrested. So I don't know what is shocking. I mean, I would be shocked if both the sets of accused had been convicted for the same crime. So, fact of the matter being, I myself had reached Matunga railway station right after the serial blast took place, and I have followed and tracked this particular case at the relevant time. I imagine Mr. Aniket Nikam may not have been as active during the same period. Now, having said that, the fact of the matter is this had to happen. One of the two sets of accused had to be guilty and one had to be found innocent. Otherwise, that would be the travesty of justice, and that would be truly what would have been shocking.
Aniket Nikam, do you want to comment on that?
Well, this case was investigated, charge sheet was filed, and the accused were tried in special MCUC court. Now, as I said earlier, we really need to read the judgment in its entirety to understand what has really swayed the court to uphold, to say that the chain of circumstances do not establish the guilt of the accused. But having said that, I sincerely feel as a Mumbaiker that this appeal needs to be, that this judgment needs to be gone into appeal. And I have firm faith in the government of Maharashtra that they would prefer an appeal against this order, because we must not forget the fact that these were the very same persons who were tried and convicted by the trial court in the first instance. Now, whether the Honorable High Court's observations in the context of what they have observed will ultimately again will have to be put to test when the matter travels to Supreme Court.
What happens, Rennie, when the matter travels to the Supreme Court?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Krishna Kumar?
Rennie, Aniket is saying the fact that the matter when it travels to the Supreme Court becomes something else. So what happens? Tell us what happens if this matter were to be taken up to the Supreme Court.
Well, obviously, there is likely to be an appeal, as Advocate Nikam points out, and the matter will go to the Supreme Court. But like as I pointed out earlier, there were two different sets of accused who were nabbed by the Mumbai police by different agencies. The ATS on one hand, headed by KP Raghuvanshi, and the Mumbai crime branch on the other hand. So, I mean, it's an oxymoron that either of the two had to be found innocent. And if I may add here, it was a very gruesome and horrific terror attack that was inflicted upon Mumbai city's psyche. It in fact claimed more lives than the subsequent 26/11 attack that took place 2 years later. So in sense of gravity and the collateral loss of lives, this serial train bombing attack was one of the most serious that took place. In fact, your channel, I must cite your channel for having providentially saved the life of one individual who currently is the principal income tax commissioner who sits at Kautilya Bhavan in BKC. It was because of a phone call by your colleague in TV9, Preeti Sompuria, that saved the life of Ravi Srivastava, who was standing on the footboard of one of these first-class compartments that had, next to which there was a blast in a compartment. And had that call not been made by Preeti Sompura, this gentleman would not have stepped inside the compartment, and that's exactly when the blast took place. And all those standing on the footboard had fallen off the train compartment, and many of whom had died. So these are things that happened, and as I was there on the scene right away at Matunga and chasing upon the the angles of the attackers, which led me to the KT Raheja Hospital in Mahim, where there was a couple that had survived this particular bombing attack in the train, and they had pointed out that there was an apparent suicide bomber who was there in the first class compartment, and he was seen entering in Dadar, and that's what they found peculiar, that it was so crowded, and this man barged into the compartment, placed a bag on top of the shelf, and was in a desperate hurry trying to exit the train in that crowded ambience, which failed. So this was something that had come out. Mumbai police had even subsequently put out a half-severed body, which was, only the upper torso part, and sought people wanting to, claim the body, but nobody did come and claim that body,
Right.
which made them suspect that it was a Pakistani inadvertent suicide bomber, so to speak. So,
I-
as far as the merits of the case go, Krishna Kumar, the legal process has been followed. But the absolute contradiction is, how can there be two sets of accused in the same
Aniket
case
Nikam,
who have been
that's a specific issue in this particular case. There were two sets of accused. What happened in the case? Where did you think it started going wrong? Because what the court says is that the prosecution has absolutely been dismal in proving anything, not the type of bomb, nothing else, no specifics about the case has been presented by the prosecution. And how is it possible in such a high-profile case there has been a botch-up right from the stage where there are two sets of accused to finally the case that is presented in front of the High Court?
You're
Well,
absolutely
in any
right,
criminal
Krishna
trial,
Kumar. And I
in any
think
Aniket,
it was
Aniket,
more
Aniket,
of a
Aniket.
what is
Rani,
important is
hold
to
on.
show
Rani, hold on. Aniket.
in any criminal trial or in any criminal case, what is important is to show and prove beyond shadow of reasonable doubt that people who are charged with the offenses are the one who are the authors of those offenses. Now, in matter like this, when initially all these accused were tried and convicted, now what remains to be considered is on what basis the Honorable High Court has come to this conclusion. And it seems the Honorable High Court has picked holes in the story of the prosecution by saying that the investigation does not conclusively establish that the ones we have charged are not the ones who are involved in the crime. Now, whether there were two sets of accused or whether there was one set of accused, I am not really aware of these nitty-gritties of this factual aspect of this case. But what remains important is that these were the very accused people who were tried and convicted by the trial court. And in appeal, the Honorable High Court has taken a different view. However, I would go a step further and say, as I said earlier, that this does not put the matter to end. There is a scope of preferring an appeal to the Honorable Supreme Court, and all this can be relooked, reconsidered, and whether the procedure was really followed or not, whether there were lapses, whether there were lacunas, can re-agitated by the prosecution before the Honorable Supreme Court.